So, Royale High has completely destroyed the trading economy, and although this may not be a totally bad thing, you as a player could be losing millions in value overnight. So, today I'm going to be telling you guys how you can help protect your value and your worth in Royale High with these new changes and what these changes mean for the Royale High economy. Now, if you guys know what I'm talking about, earlier today, as of about 4 hours ago, Royale High put out an official announcement announcing some major changes to the way that the value systems and trading works on Royale High, which has to do with purchasable items. So, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this comment as well as some feedback, and I'm going to be going over how I'm personally protecting my account from losing millions in value, because this unfortunately will see a ripple effect throughout the whole Royale High economy, which will cause some players to basically have items that become virtually worthless. So let's talk about it. Now, they posted this and it reads, Royale High updated. Will you be my Everfriend? A brand new Everfriend themed furniture is now available for your dorms and player realms. We can't wait to see how you decorate. Be sure to tag us in your content. Which, first of all, Everfriend update with new furniture, super cool. The furniture is very cute. I suggest that you guys take a look at it, but that's not what this video is about. Now, the next part of this is where it gets spicy. Have you ever wondered, what if an Ice Fairy wants the Winter Guardian set in the summer, or the Dark Fairy wants Batmo heels in the spring? If the shop's open, we're not asking questions. Seasonal shop timers are officially gone. It's always shopping season in Royale High for every fairy and mermaid. So basically, if you don't know what this means, previously stuff like Batmo heels in certain items were basically limited to a certain time frame during the year, which meant that you could only buy certain items during Halloween or during Christmas time and stuff like that. And that is how players have determined values and worths for a long time. Because when an item is in store, it's typically worth less, and then once that item goes off sale and you can no longer retain it until next year, the value of that item shoots up and players are willing to pay more than the item originally cost to actually purchase in order to obtain this item, because it's seen as rarer because it's not readily available, and there's technically limited copies in circulation up until it comes back up that next year. And with them basically allowing items to be in the shop for the entire year, including the Goddess of Triumph set, which we're going to get into in a second here, the values of these items are dropping astronomically, okay guys? Like, this is insane. Now, they go on to say a new feature or report button for player realms has been added. If you come across a realm that violates the realm guidelines, please use this feature. Thank you for helping keep Royale High safe and magical. And the new set is also coming soon. There will be no updates on its release date. So, with all of that in mind, I definitely do think it's also good they added a report button. That was a suggestion that I made, as well as some other players, so I don't think necessarily it was me that made them add this button, but I definitely do think a report button should have been something that was there from the beginning. However, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm happy that it's there now. Now, with that in mind, this is where we get to the spicy section. Now, if you guys don't know, with Royale High, when it comes to players and item values and specifics, like I just mentioned, an item being in store really does determine whether or not players see it as being a desirable item or being a high value item, because the limited quantity and limited time to purchase it makes an item seem more rare in the eyes of the consumer. Now, in this particular situation, they actually bought back the Goddess of Triumph set, which I'm going to be honest, I have some mixed opinions on. This set was originally introduced during Cancer Awareness Month, which I believe is September, and basically all proceeds went to cancer research and stuff like that from players purchasing the set with Robux. And the whole point was basically to raise money for charity, which I think that's a really, really, really good idea, and obviously a very good cause. Now, I definitely do think it's very generous of Royale High to be doing that. However, this set, at least from my understanding, was advertised as like a limited edition, limited time kind of set, and now that it's back in the shop, there are some players that are not super happy, including myself, because I paid over 120,000 diamonds for the heels, and now those heels are going to be dropping astronomically in value because anybody can go to the shop right now and purchase the heels for 1,500 Robux. Now, some people may think that the, heels at 1,500 Robux are too expensive, but I believe this was the original price that they were priced at. However, now that there will be more of these items in circulation, these heels will drop significantly in value, and I would, assume that within the next couple days, they will not be worth nearly 120,000 diamonds. They will not be worth nearly that much. Which I do want to, obviously there's like two ends to this. The one end is that it's good for obviously donating to cancer research, and so I think it is good to sell items like this. However, I do understand some players that feel betrayed by this move because they thought they had a rare item and they thought this item was a limited time item, and so they purchased it during that time just for it to return to the shop a couple years later, and now that item is basically worth very, very little. Now, you could say, oh, well, the goal of this item was to donate to cancer research, so don't be vain like that. Don't obviously be all obsessed with like the income and stuff like that. And that's right. And personally, as somebody whose family's been impacted by cancer, I have donated to various cancer foundations throughout my life, and if I wanted to donate to cancer research, I would just make a donation directly to them. I wouldn't donate necessarily through a game, and I think a lot of incentive for players to purchase this and to technically donate to cancer research was to obtain a limited edition item. So there are some players that obviously feel betrayed by this, and I can understand that because it seems like, again, this track record of, I guess, Royale High giving stuff or selling things and kind of an illusion that's going to be one way, and then all of a sudden it's a different way. But I do understand this is also a move to try and balance the economy, which is what I'm going to get into a little bit later here. Now, this person by the name of Jade commented, "Is this supposed to happen?" And they show that Goddess of Triumph heals are on sale for 1,500 Robux, and Royale High says yes, it still goes to charity too, which again, a great cause. This person says, "Can I still buy the items and get the Bow of Bravery right now, or does it not work?" And they said they're checking, and in a follow-up tweet they said that if you purchase all of the items like you did when you originally got it, you will still get the Bow of Triumph. So keep in mind that you are able to get this very, I would say, high demand item if you spend a certain amount of Robux. However, I do understand that some players are obviously pretty agitated with this because they were OG players, they purchased these when they first came out, and now they're back in the game, so basically their value plummeted, which is unfortunate, but that's what Royale High has chosen to do. Now on top of that, somebody by the name of Sonar_me said, "Will you be doing something else we can use Cloud Cash for?" And Royale High says, "Yes, can't share details yet." So I am very curious to see if that has to do with more accessories that may be in the shop. Now on top of that, this person by the name of Cupid writes, "Wait, can it be like items are in shop, but during the seasons they're slightly cheaper?" And Royale High says, "Stay tuned." So that is a theory that I guess during certain seasons items may be cheaper than others. And this person writes, "Does the seasonal shop timer thing also apply to dorm items?" And Royale High confirmed that yes, it does. Now, this person by the name of Royal Comment wrote, "Opinion, I feel like this might ruin the trading experience and economy. For instance, when things go up in price due to them not being on sale, this substantially reduces the need for trades as everyone can now own everything at the same time. Please take this into consideration." Which, this is the immediate thing that I thought with this situation. Obviously, certain items are seen as higher value because you can't always obtain them, and so things like Batmo heels, skirts, Christmas skirts, items that have to do with certain things like the Halloween items where you can now actually get candies in your lockers, apparently in Campus 3, there's a ton of stuff that is going to absolutely plummet in value. And this is why I'm a little bit concerned, because the only items I can see not being directly impacted by this are the toy code items. Because although the toy code items are sold in stores, they're not sold in every store, so not every single player has access to them. Also, they're more expensive than, a typical item in Royale High. They're about $25. So obviously they are pretty expensive for the average player, which, keep in mind, your average player is probably a child, so that's why I consider it expensive for a kid. And these sorts of items are items that are very limited quantity and are highly sought after. And unfortunately, I understand this move is probably to try and balance the system, which I think is good to a degree, because obviously there's a lot of profit traders and very greedy people who hoard hundreds of copies of the same item to artificially inflate the price. However, I am a bit concerned with how much toy code items are going to skyrocket in value. And here's why. When you have items that you can obtain at any time of the year, those items are seen as being worth less. So in exchange, players who have those items and are, frantically selling them on Tradery, which you guys can probably see, there's so many people trying to sell their Batmo heels right now. A ton of players trying to sell skirts and stuff like that before other players recognize that they're in the shop. There are players who are trying to sell Goddess of Triumph sets for the same price that they're currently listed at, which, little sneak peek, is definitely going to drop in value in the next couple of days. And people are like panic selling things, which results in people getting way less money than they would have, for example, if they traded yesterday, which in turn causes items that you cannot readily purchase, such as halos and toy code items, to shoot up in value. So my theory, based on my understanding of this, is that this move, although meant to kind of equalize the Royale High economy, is going to cause items like halos that cannot be purchased and can only be won or bought through the mermaid shop to basically skyrocket in value, so the average player will not be able to afford a halo, but hey, they can afford all these other items. So I feel like this is kind of like a win-lose sort of situation, where it kind of helps with the issue of people hoarding items and people pricing items unfairly and basically trying to limit the options for new players to actually achieve certain items. However, it basically puts this giant barrier in place where the average player probably will not be able to afford a typical halo in this situation, because halos are one of the only items that you cannot purchase in the shop, making them seem more valuable to the average player, which I think is really unfortunate. And so that's why. Here's where my advice comes in, which take it with a grain of salt. I'm not an economist. This is just my opinion. But personally, what I am doing is I am not selling my halos right now. Typically when I try to trade with diamonds, just because I find diamonds are like less subjective than obviously an item, because then someone who you're trying to trade could be like, oh, I don't like that item, even if it's like the same value or it's worth it. So personally, I always trade in diamonds. I always trade down my items into diamond values and then trade diamonds for other stuff that I want and basically work my way up that way. I found that's the easiest way to do it and the way that, you run into less hiccups. But personally, for me, I will not be selling anything until this whole kind of economy thing is worked out, especially my halos. I had a Valentine's Day 2021 halo and a Witch Hour halo. I did sell my Valentine's 2021 halo to get the angel wings that I now have. However, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit regretting that right now, because I am a little bit afraid that halo Halo is going to skyrocket in value for the reasons that I previously mentioned. So if I were you guys, I would urge you guys to, if you have a Halo, hang on to it. Do not panic sell it because you're worried about it dropping in value, because in my opinion, I don't think Halos and toy code items will be dropping in value. With that same wavelength in mind, I would encourage you guys to hang on to your toy code items for the meantime while Royale High kind of figures out this whole logistics and economy system. Just because, although you can get toy items and Halos in the mermaid shop, those items are not purchasable in the shop like other items like Batmobiles, which were previously valued at like 70k diamonds. So I'd really recommend that you guys hang on to your toy code items and hang on to Halo items and any other items that are not available in the shop right now, which you guys can check if you go to a new server. Some players have said that they don't see the new changes with all the items being for sale. You have to go to a new server. The way I did this was I went to the servers with the least amount of players, because those ones are probably the newest, and then I joined those and I was able to see the changes. But regardless, I definitely would urge you guys to not panic sell your items. Hang on to items that are not in store to try and optimize, obviously, your value as a player. Don't just trade stuff away or panic sell it because you're afraid of it reducing in value, because I don't think that's what's going to happen. Obviously, I can't make any promises, but that is just my suggestion to you guys, since I've seen so many people panicking and going to Tradery and basically just selling their stuff for super, super cheap because they're afraid. Don't be afraid. Now, with that in mind, there is some comments under this where this person writes, I love this update. I don't care what anyone thinks. This is so helpful for new players and helps solve inflation. This will be so beneficial in the future. Not to mention, I can finally buy the items I've missed out on, which I can understand that perspective as well. And I do think it's important to make the game fair for everybody. But I also think the move to re-add things like the Goddess of Triumph set that was meant to be like a limited edition, limited time thing for a charity event, although it is for a good cause, I personally don't think that should have been added back, because players were presented with the opportunity to purchase something for a limited time and now it's back, and I feel like some people are pretty agitated with that because they assumed that the purchase they were making would be limited to just people who purchased it at that time rather than everybody. But regardless, that's just my thoughts. This person writes, yes, it's a really smart update TBH. I'm thinking it was a suggestion from the hired professionals they mentioned in their last post, which is why it feels so out of nowhere. It makes me hopeful about other upcoming updates. This person says the only people hating this update are the people who profit trade off of sets, which is sad because farming is hard now, and I'm as happy as you too. Which, I'm not necessarily a profit trader. I literally said I bought toy code items and traded them for less than they're valued at, just because I'm trying to like equalize things, I guess, to the best of my ability, and I don't want to contribute to that kind of environment. However, I don't think the only people who are upset about this are people who profit trade. Obviously, anybody who trades in Royale High is a profit trader to a degree, but I think there's a difference between hoarders and people who maliciously profit trade, where they will misrepresent item values or skew item values or lie to players to get better trades, versus people who are just trying to trade, in a way that makes sense for them, where they're profiting a little bit every trade, because that's how you technically get rich, is by profiting just a tiny bit every single trade. Eventually that adds up to quite a bit. But again, I can understand players who bought limited time items and thought they'd be limited edition, and they're not, and their frustration. So I think I can see two sides to this sort of situation. And this person writes, well, that's actually such a big change. Now sets can't be overpriced of the shop price. This has to be good to the economy in the long term, which I do think in the long term, this will be very beneficial to the Royale High economy and making things more fair and reducing the amount of people obviously cross-trading and stuff like that. However, I am concerned with the inflation that may result from this based on the toy code items and Halos and stuff like that. I'm a little bit curious how that's going to work, and if maybe they would ever have like a rotation of Halos on sale, because at this point, if they're removing game passes and making it so items aren't seasonal anymore, I feel like kind of anything's on the table. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the future. I definitely do understand both sides of this, people who are happy and people who are frustrated and feel a little bit blindsided, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you guys think about this? Is it a good update? Are you happy with it? Are you against it? Do you think it'll be good in the long term? Do you feel betrayed? Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye!